Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.wordpress.com, back again here with another Sunday scoring project, and I figured I'd better get some Christmas cards done. Now this one is a lovely Christmas card using a super new stamp set. I don't normally do cutesy, or I don't do many cutesy, but I couldn't resist these ones. Merry Mice in the Autumn Winter catalogue, so you've only got till Christmas to get it, so if you want it in your stash for future years, get it now. Here's the gorgeous little 3 mice, this lovely little chap here. And so because of the orientation of those, and I wanted to put those together, it needed to be a landscape kind of card. And to make it a little bit different, and this is a special card being Sunday scoring, you pull on the little here and look, here are those gorgeous little 3 mice. So it is a pop-up slider card, but one that is landscape. A lot I have seen and I have made ones that are in the other orientation, but this time we're going landscape. So you're going to need your trimmer, you're going to need some inks, and to start off with, you're going to need a piece of card that is half a sheet of UK A4. So that means it is 8 1/4 inches wide, and then I've made that 5 3/4 inches, and I've got the edge damp. So let's cut a fresh piece. So half a sheet of A4. So we're going to cut this at 5 3/4 inches, like so, and then we're going to score to make our card blank at 4 1/8. And there we go, there's our card base. And that obviously needs to be burnished because it's going to need to stay flat. So what you now need to do is get your trimmer, and I'm obviously going to, I'll do, as I usually do, I'll do the measurements in inches and centimetres. My trimmer, because it's a European one, is got inches and centimetres on the top, but only centimetres down the trimmer here, so that's why those will be in centimetres. So what you need to do is put your card in, and at 3/4 of an inch on the right hand side here, if I just move that down very slightly, there you go. So line it up, and you're going to put your cutter in, and it's the top piece of card that you're cutting. You're going to cut from 2 centimetres down to 8.5 centimetres, so down here. You're then going to rotate your card, and at 3 3/8 on the side here, we're going to cut from 2 centimetres down to 12.5 centimetres. And that's making that cut there. And you might not quite join up, but don't worry about that, we can just get our scissors or a craft knife in there in a minute. Rotate again, and now you're going to line it up at just under 5 inches. Yeah, there you go, there's a 5-inch mark, it's actually 5 inches there. And you're going to cut down at the bottom here, so make sure you come down and you're cutting from 12.5, which is where this cut is here, down to 19 centimetres. Okay, take your cutting blade out of the way, rotate again, and you're lining this up at, there you go, to show you there, at 2 centimetres on the right hand side here, which is just 7.5 inches, and you're going to score between the 2 cut lines. So there we go, score down there, so that's 2 to 12.5 again. You're then going to score at 3 inches, so you're going to flip it, and at 3 inches you're going to score again between the cut lines. Okay, so, and then you're going to move it across to 1 7/8 of an inch, so just below the 2, and you're going to score again between those lines. Okay, so that's your cutting and your scoring done to make your card base. I've pre-cut all my card and DSP, so this is the bit, if I show you here, that's going to make this little easel part on the front. So before I do anything else, I'm actually just going to stamp, which I didn't do in my original, but I'm just going to stamp the stars from the set around the edges. Just add a little bit of interest around it. And obviously cherry cobble on cherry cobble, it's just a nice kind of self effect. You could emboss if you had more time, if you wanted to. So I just wanted to add a bit of an accent on there. So there we go, there's our basic card base. And if I get my scissors here, you'll see I haven't quite released that corner, so I'm just going to come in and snip. There, just release that. And I'm going to do the same on the side here. There we go. And then I'm going to fold my card. So the first one is a valley fold. And again, come in and burnish, mountain, burnish, and a valley fold. Okay, so you can see, valley, mountain, valley. We're then going to put, on the inside here, we're not going to stick it just yet, I'm going to put some thin red tape. Now, this is an occasion when I do use tape, because and I use red tape. The tear and tape is great, but I've run out. But it doesn't come in quite this narrow width, and I want to keep that as narrow as possible. You can put a strip across the front here as well if you want to. That just helps to keep it flat when you're pulling it as well. So I'm just going to pop that in there. So there's our basic card. Now we need to make our slider and our mechanism. So in order to make the slider, what I've used is the thick Whisper White card. Because it's been pulled in and out, I wanted something that was just that little bit more robust. And so you're going to need a card for the slider that is 5 by 3.5 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to trim this piece of card down. Trim rather than score. 5 by 3.5, and I'm then going to corner round that just at the top to neaten it off. You don't have to, but it's just it just finishes the edges a little bit for you. And then across the top I'm going to stamp in Garden Green my Merry Christmas, and the reason I'm doing that is because the colours in the DSP that I'm using, I'm just going to line that about halfway. Yeah. And do it upside down. Okay, let's flip that over. As somebody once said, there are 2 sides of the card for a reason, particularly when you're videoing. There we go, Merry Christmas. Now we get to sort it out. And I'm then going to just stamp a few stars in Delightful Dijon. In my very first one, I actually used crushed curry, so you could use that as well. It's actually quite a good match. And I'm now not going to stamp my stars because I've just dropped them on the floor and I can't see them. They've obviously flipped somewhere. Okay, we're without stars. Okay, so now what we're going to do, now that I've completely flummoxed, having lost my stars and realised that I've stamped my Merry Christmas a little bit high to get my slider in, we're going to carry on regardless. What you now need to do is just take a piece of ordinary stuff copier paper and cut a strip off it that is around, I don't know, about sort of 1/2 inch, so it's about, you know, just under a couple of centimetres, so about 1.5 centimetres, something like that. And this is going to just help stabilise our slider. Because it'll move around, if you put this in, you wrap it round your card, but quite gently, so that it does run. And so just sort of glue it down. In fact, I've seen that. I'm actually going to re-stamp it. Look, you see. This is crafting on the go. The reason I'm not stopping and restarting this, to be quite honest with you, is because this is attempt number 3 for me already. And it hasn't been a good day. I think my previous card that I filmed today actually took 5 attempts at it, so I got lots of bits of cardstock around. It's just been one of those days, but I have now found my stars, so fortuitous. Delightful Dijon, let's get some stars going on around here. because this is going to be covered up, so it isn't going to matter that I have messed up, because nobody's going to see it. Because where that is going to do, that is going to sit on the bottom edge of this piece of card. So all you need to do is get some, again, some self-adhesive tape. I'm using red tape. I do find for sort of kinetic cards or fancy fold cards, you need something nice and strong, but also I'm not very precise with my fast fuse. So once you've done that, what you need to do is lie that flat and then just centre it on the edge. Okay. There we go. So as you can see, that is going to pull up like so. Hooray! This is where you now need to put your slider around, and this is where this will then attach to the back. Before we actually fold it up though, I want to make the little notches in the top. So all you need to do is take a pen or a pencil and a ruler and just mark the midpoint roughly on the top there. So because it's 5 3/4, you're looking at about so 2 7/8. Yes, around about there. Okay, and just come in with your 3/4 inch punch, and I'm just going to eyeball the middle there. Then I'm going to mark the midpoint on here again, and just eyeball that as well. Now you can wrap this around and put some, we'll put some glue on it in a minute because you need to do your panel. Oh, this is such a disaster. I am so sorry about this. Okay, you're going to stamp and watercolour your mice. I've got one I did here earlier, but to show you, I'm just going to start it off. So I'm using Memento black ink. I'm using that because it is waterproof once it is dry, and I'm using watercolour, an aqua painter rather, with our water-based inks. So I've just inked up the stamp, and I am just going to stamp that, and that is a piece that is 1 3/4 inches by 5 inches. Okay, so all you do is pick up some colour from the inside of your stamp case, and you literally just watercolour as much or as little as you like, or you can use your markers. And I've used crumb cake, garden green and cherry cobbler, and to get the lighter shades you just add a little bit more water. Try not to oversaturate it though, because otherwise your paper will start to sort of fur up, because obviously it's not watercolour paper. But then once it's dry, I then come in and just add a little bit of shading around the edges, like so. That piece is then going to go on the inside of our card. So this is what's going to be visible when you pull your slider up. So all I'm going to do is take my snail and glue it down. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to gently place it at the moment, and I'm going to just fold it to make sure that that's right, and that's absolutely fine. So I'll just align it and press it down. Okay, that's now the inside of our card completed. So all that we've got left to do is to do our notching out, our notch on the top there for our puller, and that is done by stamping. It's not done by stamping at all. It's done by punching a circle of card. I've just got a scrap here of some real red. You could obviously use the garden green to contrast, or anything else that you wanted. And I just literally by hand fold that over, and then I use a bit of wet glue. And there's 2 reasons for using some wet glue on this, and that is because it actually softens the card slightly, so when you punch through it's not quite such a chore. So we line that up, pop it in, and there we go. and then you're going to come in and with a hole punch, and there are all sorts of hole punches. I'm using a Stampin' Up one here, but I've got a couple of others that are really good. Now, in order to punch through, because you're doing 4 layers, I tend to punch on the one side, not all the way through. I then line it up and come in again from the other side. I can come back. It seems like a bit of a faff, but it is worth it. And give it a bit of pressure. And that way you get a nice little hole. I'm then using some of the coloured baker's twine, which we've got, and this is in the garden green here. And I've just taken a couple of lengths and folded those over. And then I just pop those through and do a little loop like so, and through. So you've got a nice little tag. And then just come in, and then you can just trim those up to whatever length you want. Okay, so there's our base card. We're now going to put our strip of stabiliser around, and to do that, so again, not too firm. Okay, we're going to move it up to the very top because we don't want it showing afterwards, and we're just going to put some snail on there. This is probably the trickiest bit of the card. Once you've done that, peel off the tape and then fold the card up like so. Push those down firmly, and there you've got your card with your slider mechanism like so. So there's our mechanism. All that's left is to do our stamping on the front, and that's exactly the same method as we used before. So it really isn't a good day, is it? Inking, stamp, straight down and up. Colour our little mouse in with whatever colour we happen to fancy. I've got a bit of red on here, so that's going to be his sweater. I've used the crumb cake, I think I said, for the face, and then some very dilute cherry cobbler for the inside of the ears. And once you have made your little mouse and coloured him in, you're going to mount it. And before I do that, one of the ways you'll see on this, I've actually got an edge around that. You can do that with a marker, but what I do, or you can sponge it, I literally just dab the edge of my card into the edge of the ink pad, and I find that just picks up enough ink to make a really pretty border around that. Some snail on the back there. Layer it up onto DSP, and the one I've used here is the Warmth and Cheer stack. Cherry cobbler, crumb cake, delightful Dijon. Lovely colours, very traditional sort of knitted pattern effect on those, and you can pick out all sorts of colours. And then you just need to layer that up onto a piece of card. And the piece of the DSP, I should have said, is 3 3/4 by 2 3/4, and then you just need a fairly small piece, really, of cardstock to layer it onto, which is 4 inches by 3 inches. And I've used garden green, and you could use, you know, any colour you like, couldn't you? I've just got a slightly furry edge on there, but all you need to do again is layer. And my snails run out. Okay. Here we go. And then when you come to put this onto your card, I recommend you, when you slide that in, you're just going to put some glue on this bottom half here. So I would recommend improvising with put a bit of wet glue on there. Probably a little bit much, but then there you go. So there we go. There's your slider card. All you need to do now is pop your decoration on the front, and you're all done. An interactive card for Christmas. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me soon. Bye.